In this video, we'll look at the tips and tricks on transforming objects. We can transform objects using the keyboard shortcuts G, S, and R. S for scale. G for grab or move. R for rotation. To reset rotation, you can press Option or Alt key plus R key. To reset move, you can press Option or Alt key plus G key. To reset scale, you can press Option or Alt key plus S key. We can also access these transform commands on the left Tools menu. Select the cube and click on Move icon. Now you are in Transform Move mode with guided controls representing the axes X, Y, and Z. Click and drag the green arrow to move the cube along Y-axis. Red arrow for X-axis and blue arrow for Z-axis. Clicking on Rotate icon in the Tools menu launches Guided Rotate. You can click on the respective axis color and move the mouse to rotate around that axis. Press Option or Alt plus G, Option or Alt plus R, Option or Alt plus S to reset move, rotation, and scale. Click on Scale icon to enable the guided scale tool. Similar to move and rotate, you can scale along the three axes. Option or Alt key plus S to reset scale. Apart from scaling on specific axis, you can also restrict scaling on a single axis, while allowing scaling on the remaining two. Clicking on the green square icon and dragging scales only along X and Z axes. Clicking on the red square icon and dragging scales only along Y and Z axis. Similar to scale, you can move along two axes while restricting one axis. Clicking and dragging on the green square moves the cube along X and Z axes, while restricting Y axis. Clicking and dragging red square restricts the movement to Z and Y axes. Option or Alt key plus G to reset the move. Clicking and dragging on the blue square moves the cube along X and Y axes. A quick tip before we move along. Right now, we can only see X and Y axes in the 3D viewport. If you want a visual reference of Z axis, you can enable it in the Overlays menu. While we can rotate, scale, and move using R, S, and G keys without guided controls, we can also specify the axis along which each of these three actions should happen. Pressing G and X keys restricts the move to X axis. Pressing G and Y keys restricts the move to Y axis. Press Option or Alt key plus G key to reset the location. Apart from restricting the move to a specific axis, We can also specify the distance to move along that axis. Here, pressing G and Z keys and the number 1 key moves the cube up 1 meter from the current location. Pressing G and Y keys and the number 5 moves the cube up 5 meters from the current location. Pressing G and Y keys, the number 5 key and the minus key moves the cube back 5 meters from the current location. Notice that you can press the minus key after the number. Pressing minus key first and 2 key after, or 2 key first and minus key after will move the cube minus 2 meters from its current location. This is quite helpful. Similar to move, scaling can be restricted to a specific axis when using the scale option with S key. Pressing S and X key scales along X-axis. Pressing S and Z key scales along Z-axis. Pressing S and Y key scales along Y-axis. Similarly, pressing S and Y keys and the 2 key scales existing width 2 times along Y-axis. Pressing S and X keys and the 3 key scales existing width 3 times along X-axis. Pressing S and Z keys and the 4 key scales existing width 4 times along Z-axis. You can also rotate objects similarly on specific axis. Pressing R and X keys locks objects' rotation to X-axis. Pressing R and Z keys locks objects' rotation to Z-axis. And pressing R and Y keys locks objects' rotation to Y-axis. We can also restrict scaling and moving to 2 axes while using shortcut keys S and G. To restrict move to X and Y, press G key and then press Shift plus Z key. To restrict move to X and Z, press G key and then press Shift plus Y key. To restrict move to Y and Z, press G key and then press Shift plus X key. We can do the same with scale while using shortcut S key. Press S key and then press Shift plus Z keys to restrict the scaling to X and Y axes. Press S key and then press Shift plus X keys to restrict the scaling to X and Y axes. Press S key and then press Shift plus Y keys to restrict the scaling to Y and Z axes. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.